Hello everybody, welcome back to CM42 TV, and we're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to sit and we're going to talk about Star Wars. Say something different. I've been talking about Star Wars for pretty much years here on the channel, but we've not done it in a little while. It's just been May the 4th, so I'm in the mood. I was on FaceTime last night to one of my closest pals, R&D, who you might know from the podcast, the Good Bit podcast, not the wrestling podcast. I'm podcast daft. I was on FaceTime last night because obviously, you know, we're in lockdown, we're in quarantine, isolation, all those lovely words. And it makes it, you know, difficult to see people a lot because you're not allowed to see people a lot or ever. So I must say, things like Zoom and Facebook Messenger and FaceTime and things like that have just been an absolute godsend over the past few weeks, talking to friends and family. And last night I was catching up with my mate Aaron, and he has just finished watching The Mandalorian, and I was like, perfect, I watched The Mandalorian a little while ago, we can finally talk about it. So we talked about Mandalorian, and then, you know, we talked about Clone Wars, and we talked about what we watched on May the 4th and that sort of thing. And we're good pals, and we've always been good pals, and we caught up, you know, pleasantries and that sort of thing. But as soon as I hung up the phone, I realised that we had been chatting Star Wars for about 93% of the chat, you know. Like the biggest majority of the conversation was all about Star Wars, and it just kind of put me in the mood. Put me in the mood to think about Star Wars some more, watch some more Star Wars. I went straight onto YouTube. I watched a bunch of reaction videos to people watching Revenge of the Sith for the first time, or, you know, the big reveal in Empire, which I won't review here. So things like, I don't know, just every so often when I get into that Star Wars mode, I feel like I'm stuck in that Star Wars mode for a long time. It happened right before Rise of Skywalker was released back in December, just there. And obviously, you know, for obvious reasons, because there's a new film coming out and it's a big deal and it's very exciting. But then sometimes I do go, it's a bit like wrestling, I suppose. You go a bit Star Wars daft and you kind of go oversaturated, is that the word? Star Wars in your head, you're thinking about it all the time. It's always on your screen, you know. You kind of get bummed out a little bit, and I did feel that around Christmas time last year because of all the build up to The Rise of Skywalker. And then after I saw The Rise of Skywalker, I still was, you know, wanting more Star Wars, and I ended up watching the prequels again, and I started Clone Wars, and, you know, Mandalorian was finishing and that sort of thing. And it was just like, by Christmas time I was Star Wars out my nut. And it was time for a break, and I did take a break until I've not watched Star Wars really at all, you know, except a couple of episodes of the Clone Wars because I got Disney Plus when that was launched in the UK, and now because it's been, you know, May the 4th and that sort of thing, you know, I wasn't even thinking about watching a Star Wars film, but I got Rise of Skywalker in the post, which I'll show you right now. I've not been doing my Blu-ray collection updates because I've been saving all my money because of the quarantine, but I did purchase this. This is my first and last purchase in a few months, or for a few months. I actually posted that exact verbiage with this picture on my Instagram, which is at CM42TV if you want to follow me on there and connect with me on the Insta. Yeah, picked this up because I have, you know, of course I've got a Disney Plus. I got this on the Saturday, I believe, and May the 4th was the Monday, and it was getting put on Disney Plus on the Monday. And I was like, maybe I'll just wait, you know, for it to be on Disney Plus, and that's that. But I've got every single other Star Wars film, except Clone Wars, on Blu-ray, so I had to make sure I picked it up and just complete that Skywalker collection. Is that going to drive you nuts, the fact I didn't say Skywalker Saga? So, because of that, there was a lot of things on Twitter when I say that, because The Rise of Skywalker was released digitally and physically, and because it was May the 4th and everybody was watching, you know, films and that sort of thing, it got a lot of people talking, and especially on Twitter, which I'm also at CM42TV. You want to follow me on there and chat some Star Wars with me on there. A lot of people were doing their 4 favourite Star Wars moments. I don't know if it was Star Wars moments or if it was Skywalker Saga moments, but the reason it was a 4 was because you can only post 4 pictures on Twitter. So everyone was putting, you know, a picture of, you know, Kylo killing his father, or Luke swinging across the thing with Leia, you know, or the trash compactor scene, or whatever, you know. People were posting pictures of them on Twitter, and it was great because I was just scrolling through Twitter and it was just 4 pictures of different Star Wars scenes, and I was like, oh that scene's brilliant, you know. I didn't see many Clone Wars things, however I did see Cody Rhodes tweeted a Clone Wars moment, which I'm trying to stay away from because I'm very new to it and that sort of thing. I'm only a few episodes in, as well as the film, you know, and I'm watching it in chronological order, which I don't know why it was made such a big deal about. When I started watching it and I did some research, everyone was like, well, there's no point starting it unless you watch it in chronological order. Well, the fucking Star Wars films aren't in chronological order, so what does it matter, do you know? But I didn't see any Rogue One moments when I was going through Twitter, so maybe it was Skywalker Saga. But anyway, Clone Wars is technically still the Skywalker Saga. You know, we're learning about Ahsoka and all that, you know, but it's still part of it. It's still in that time zone, you know. And then this morning, I was watching Impractical Jokers, and which was recorded, and I went on to like this just to see what was on TV. And on the movies channel, we recently got the movies back before Christmas, and we've still got it now. And there's again a Star Wars channel. I don't know if it's because May the 4th was on or was happening, but it's back, the Star Wars movie channel, and Revenge of the Sith was on. It was an hour in, and I had to do some work from home today, so boom, an hour and 20 remaining of Revenge of the Sith. Get it watched, and I kept being distracted from my work watching Revenge of the Sith, so I watched that today, and now I've been watching some more Star Wars videos there, and I'm just in the mood to chat about it. And I never posted my favourite moments, my 4 favourite moments on Twitter, because I kept changing my mind, and I kept trying to find the right pictures, and I just, every so often, I feel like I put a lot of pressure on Twitter, you know, but it doesn't matter at all. Again, I do all this research, and I do all this, I look for all the pictures and that sort of thing. And I think, what am I going to say? And then sometimes I'll actually tweet it and then read it back and go, that's rubbish, that makes no sense, and I'll just delete the tweet. So I never get around to doing it, I never get around to tweeting it. So I thought, let's talk about it now for a couple of minutes here on CM42 TV. And I'll do my 5 favourite Star Wars moments, because I found it really difficult to get 4 and 5, just, you know, do a top 5 or whatever, you know, a top 4 sounds a bit daft. I guess 4 for May 4, but whatever. I guess it's just the 4 thing for Twitter. But I thought I'd do my 4, my 5, my top 5 favourite Star Wars moments, but I'm not going to order them, because any Star Wars fan will tell you, your opinion of the films changes all the time, depending on what you've seen most recently, what you haven't seen in a while, what you're in the mood to watch, you know. Like, I hadn't seen the Clone Wars movie for years and years and years, since it was in the cinema actually. And then I rewatched it just late last year, and I was like, this isn't that bad, this is actually really good, really enjoyable. And I've heard the series gets so much better, but the film is I think it's a good catalyst for those characters. Ahsoka is such a lovable character, and I feel like I never gave her credit, because I kind of looked at that film back in 2008 as, it's not a Star Wars film, it's not part of the story, but it totally is, you know. But anyway, again, so no order, you know, or that's not even a pun in the first order, it's just no order in terms of 5 favourite moments, like if there's a 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, it's just these are my 5 favourite moments in general. And I've been struggling to come up with the 5. So my first one, I guess I'll speak about, that I decided to go with, is the Battle of Crate from the ending of The Last Jedi. The last scene, again, well, it's the last scene, it's one of the last scenes, and the penultimate, the big moment, the big ending, the climax of The Last Jedi, the whole last half hour takes place there. And I know The Last Jedi gets a lot of flack, and so does Rise of Skywalker, and quite frankly, so does every Star Wars film from someone out there. Because I kind of mentioned this on, was it a live stream or a podcast or something? I think it was a podcast. Do you know what it was? A podcast. I was a guest on a podcast. Remember I said earlier I'm podcast that. I was a guest on a podcast called The Rap Chat, which I'm trying to kind of work my way into taking over, by the way, just heads up. But so I was a guest on that podcast, and we were talking about guilty pleasures. And I said one of my guilty pleasure movies is Solo, Star Wars story, the Han Solo standalone film, because although it's not, you know, what I guess you would expect for a Harrison Ford, you know, follow-up, you know, or a prequel, I should say, and because it's a different casting and it's younger characters and that sort of thing, I think it's a lot of fun. It's wall-to-wall Star Wars, it's full of action, you know. Emilia Clarke's really good, there's a lot of fun new characters. What's his name who plays Lando? Childish Gambino, who plays Lando, brilliant, you know. I can't remember his actor name, but Childish Gambino, This Is America. I think I was going to break in a rap there. So, you know, that was my guilty pleasure, and then I was talking about it on that podcast. I was like, there's no way you can kind of make any argument regarding any Star Wars film with it's not going to get some form of groan from a Star Wars fan. A Star Wars fan's going to roll their eyes somewhere, you know. That's just the way it is. So as soon as I mentioned the Battle of Crate there and the words The Last Jedi, I'm sure a bunch of you out there who are Star Wars fans went, oh, you're joking, or come on. I actually, recently when I posted that trailer reaction, where someone created the Skywalker Saga, you know, fan trailer, and I reacted to it recently, I actually got a comment saying, how can you like The Last Jedi? And I just explained why I like it. It's the most beautiful Star Wars film. It follows up in a different sort of way of the characters that we discovered in The Force Awakens, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, I'm still getting that. Not just me, but there's loads of Star Wars fans out there that love The Last Jedi and love The Rise of Skywalker and love Solo and love these films that maybe aren't even looked at in the same way, like Attack of the Clones or whatever, who, you know, it doesn't even get mentioned as terms of the greatest Star Wars films ever, and maybe rightfully so. Attack of the Clones is probably my least favourite one, but anytime Attack of the Clones is on, I'll still really enjoy it because it's Star Wars. I love the universe, I love the franchise, I love the saga, I love the characters. So I can get past the daft dialogue, the silly special effects sometimes, the weird decisions they make in some films. I can totally get by that. Just like I can get by that in any film or any TV show that I've invested any time in, you know. So I was talking about the Battle of Crate, and the reason that this is the only Last Jedi scene in this, or moment in this top 5, or 5 favourite moments I should say. And although I hold The Last Jedi in such high regard, it would be in my top 5 Star Wars films in terms of the way it looks and the sort of risks it takes and the character, not the character development, but the character directions they all go in. It just takes you on a total emotional roller coaster. And when you watch that film, it blows you away. You know, if you can get past the pettiness of some of the daft decisions they might have made or may not have made, it's such a beautiful film. And to me, when, you know, I think the scales, you know, maybe some parts weren't as good, which I actually like the story and I like the decisions made, I like the dialogue and whatever, the things that people don't like, I tend to like. But, you know, if something is really bad, right, and it's over here, and that's and it's going down, you know, in terms of your opinion, over here you've got the special effects, you've got the colour scheme, you've got the settings, you've got the physical effects, you've got the acting, and all that stuff overshadows, outweighs all the negative stuff of that film for me, you know. And The Last Jedi is just such a beautiful film, and this scene, the Battle of Crate, is The Last Jedi to me. The red sand, or the white sand I suppose, with the red kind of underlining, and Luke showing up looking all dapper and looking freshly shaved and got a new robe on, and Kylo unable to control his emotions and his temper, and just getting so worked up in front of all of his men, the people who he's trying to act cool in front of, and he's trying to act in charge in front of, like people like Hux. Hux is taking the piss out of him. Do you know what I mean? And Kylo doesn't care, because all he wants is to be, you know, is to reign supreme. And he knows, you know, Luke is messing with him. He knows that Rey is messing with him somewhere. And he knows all he has to do is blow these people up. He doesn't really feel it in his mind. That's just spat everywhere. He doesn't really feel it in his heart or in his mind. But to him, at that point in time, he's so fueled with anger after what happened with Snoke and with Rey. He's so full of passion. He just wants to be in charge of everything and be the leader of everything. And the moment where he's screaming at Luke, he's screaming at his men to blow Luke up, steady. And I'm not going to do the quote or the impression, but he tells him to blow that piece of junk out of the sky. Such a beautiful scene. And in the moment where they're running, you know, the sort of mad crystal horses thing, I can't remember the name of them. I do love a moment where there's two soldiers kind of like in the sort of trenches bit, and one of them kind of wipes their finger on the sand and goes, salt. Just so we all know it's definitely salt. I said sand there, I know, but it's salt. But yeah, it's such a beautiful scene. And then, you know, the moment where Luke just walks out in front of them and he does that meeting with Kylo, and there's that shot where it's like a long shot and you see the background there, and you've got Luke on one side and Kylo on the other, and Kylo runs towards him, and, you know, and goes, Luke's not really there, and he goes through Luke. Such a brilliant scene, filmmaking at its finest, quite frankly. And then the point where Luke goes, it's brilliant, you know. I love the dye and the beard and that sort of thing. And to me, that's the moment in the cinema, The Last Jedi, that I was so... You know the way you get that moment in films where you're so into the film, your body gets all tense and stuff like that? That was my, you know, tense moment in the cinema for me during The Last Jedi. And there's plenty of them, you know, don't get me wrong. That's an emotionally draining film. But that's the moment I was gripping the sides of my, you know, the arms of my chair, and I was, you know, like so intense and maybe even crying a little bit, you know, at that moment. So that'd be my fifth favourite moment, or the first moment of this top 5, the Battle of Crate. I'll speed it up, don't worry. Another moment that I'll go from a completely other trilogy, that, you know, it would be one of my favourite Star Wars moments, is the rescuing of the princess from the Death Star in A New Hope. This is one of my favourite Star Wars, one of my favourite movie moments of all time. And I know it's not really a moment, it's more of a sequence of moments, and I'm kind of including the arrival on the Death Star of the Falcon with, you know, Ben, Chewie, Luke, and Han Solo all in the control room beforehand, and when they dress up as the stormtroopers and that sort of thing. When they dress up as the stormtroopers, they steal the uniform. of the Stormtrooper. And, you know, Ben Kenobi goes away and, you know, and he does his business and tries to take out the shields, and he meets Darth Vader and they have that battle and he uses the Force and all those moments, you know. All that whole rescuing of the princess scene, I would consider to be a whole moment of the Star Wars franchise, because they're on there for so long. So many wee things happen, but they all kind of tie together so well. You know, the moment where Han's talking to the guy on the speaker, and, you know, he says, "How are you?" and he shoots and he goes, "A boring conversation anyway." All that stuff, you know, the trash compactor stuff, finally getting out of there, you know, 3PO saving the day. It is, as a Star Wars moment, it's a feel-good moment. It's a, you know, it's a heroic moment, and other than the fact that, you know, Ben Kenobi dies or whatever, you know, he gets overtaken by the Force and gets defeated by Vader. That whole scene, it reminds me of my childhood a little bit, because it's, you know, the sort of scenes in the film that my dad would show me in terms of wanting to be a Star Wars fan. I wanted to watch Star Wars. A New Hope's always been his favourite, so it's always nice to kind of watch that with him and that sort of thing. And it's nice to watch any Star Wars films with him and any other members of my family that want to get involved. But in terms of what, like, really early Star Wars memories, I remember having A New Hope, Empire and Jedi on these sort of really silly DVD-Rs, and like they were burned onto discs. They were the worst quality ever, and they would actually skip at some points. And, you know, watching that scene, and just the way it looks, you know, there's a moment in Rise of Skywalker where Rey is in Kylo's kind of office, right, where it's, you know, the white walls and the Vader mask is there, and they're communicating through their minds, and Kylo goes, "So that's where you are." That looks like that time in Star Wars. It looks like 1977 Star Wars, you know, old school original series. I'm watching Star Trek right now, not original series, original trilogy. Star Wars, you know. So all that, just the way it looks, the way it sounds, the dialogue there, the characters, the sound of the Stormtroopers walking, you know, and banging their head off the roof, and the sounds of the guns and that, and the lasers and that sort of thing, the blasters, if you will, and Chewbacca, just all those sounds and just the way it looks and the way it feels screams Star Wars to me. And that'd be another one of my favourite moments in terms of the original trilogy. Another one of my favourite moments of all time would come from The Force Awakens. I have two moments from The Force Awakens here, because I would say The Force Awakens is my favourite Star Wars film, and I've gone on about why it is, you know, for so long before, so I won't bore you with that again. However, The Force Awakens, in terms of starting off a brand new trilogy, kind of makes the decision for me that the sequel trilogy might be my favourite trilogy of the lot. And I find that really interesting when that question's posed to so many people. What's your favourite Star Wars trilogy? Or what's even your favourite Star Wars movie? A lot of people go to the original straight away without even thinking about it. Original trilogy, of course it is, you know, nothing can beat that. And that's fair, and they might be right, you know, who am I to say that's wrong? But when you stop and you think about it, and, you know, I think there's an argument for all three trilogies of why they could be your favourite. You know, of course, original trilogy for nostalgia reasons. That's the original films, that's the original story, the original characters, all that stuff. Totally understand that. Then if you think about the prequel trilogy, that could easily be a favourite trilogy, because it's like, imagine what Star Wars would look like in the sort of in the rebellion, the prime of the rebellion, the prime of the Clone Wars. Then you get to see it. I know there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. It's just not that good. It isn't, you know, as good as it could have been and that sort of thing. And the acting's a bit dodgy. But once you get past that, as I said earlier on, you just block that out of your mind. You enjoy the films as what they are. You know, the prequel trilogy is great. It ties up so many things that you kind of hear about in the original trilogy, and you actually get to see. And I think Revenge of the Sith is one of the strongest films of the entire saga, after again watching it today. And then of course sequel trilogy, you can totally make an argument towards that being the best one, just because it's the best acted Star Wars film. It's the best looking Star Wars film, a lot of people would say. The risks that they take, the different ways the story goes. You've had for 30 years, you've thought, what would have happened after Return of the Jedi? And then we got it over 3 films. We introduced new characters, we had that nostalgia kick with the old characters and the original characters. There's so many ways, and don't get me started on the score for the sequel trilogy. I know the music's great for, you know, for prequels and original, but in terms of the music from John Williams, I'm sorry, but the sequel trilogy music blows all the other ones out the water. And as I said, it's the best looking Star Wars trilogy. So again, 2 moments that I would add to my top 5 from the sequel trilogy would both be from The Force Awakens, and the first one would be the very, very start of The Force Awakens, because if you were there on opening night of Force Awakens, and the excitement for this film and for the excitement of what you were about to see, and not even knowing what you're about to see, you know what I mean, you have no idea. You may have read some spoilers, you may have seen some leaks and that sort of thing, and you've obviously had the trailers and stuff, but the trailers were all I'd seen, you know. I didn't know about, you know, what was going to happen in terms of about BB-8 or who Kylo Ren was and all that stuff. You know, you kind of have your predictions and stuff. And I knew about the characters that were coming up. I think I knew Finn was a stormtrooper, but I didn't know about Poe. I didn't know about, you know, Rey. I knew Rey was going to be in it. I didn't know she was a scavenger. I certainly didn't know what she would go out to become. You know, I didn't realise she would end up being one of my favourite Star Wars characters of all time. You know, so that's the beauty of The Force Awakens, because you didn't know. But that first scene of The Force Awakens, where, you know, after the crawl goes and we go to that island, I was going to say island, but that planet with Max von Sydow's characters there with Oscar Isaac and having that scene. And I'd love to investigate Max von Sydow's characters some more. It's very interesting because immediately when you see him, you consider him to be a big deal, you know, in the way that, you know, Poe's kind of talking to him as if he's very well respected. We don't know who he is, we don't know much about him. And I'm sure there's, you know, extended stuff, you know, in games and graphic novels and things like that. And maybe even the Clone Wars and Rebels and things like that. I don't know that side of it, so maybe he's, you know, got a big, you know, back catalogue of stuff, but I don't know that, and I didn't know that at the time. And just, you know, I'd heard one quote before going into this film that BB-8 steals the show. And as soon as you see BB-8 for the first time, you just immediately, you kind of get what that quote came from. You get the cuteness of it, you get the personality of this droid. It's crazy. And then the moment where you see Kylo's ship, and you see Kylo for the first time, and one of, I think, the most underrated Star Wars moments of all time is the moment where Finn is reluctant, you know, to kind of pull the trigger and be a stormtrooper. He doesn't want to kill these people. He doesn't want to do violence. You know, he's a better person than that. He can see how bad this is and how wrong this is, and I just love that. The moment where, like, he sees, because up until that point, I mean, you'd seen some emotion from the clones, but in terms of the stormtroopers, you'd never seen any emotion really, other than some conversations that you heard in passing. You know, it must have been another drill or whatever, you know, they say in the originals and A New Hope. It's just that, like, it's the first time you really see some emotion from, obviously, and then he goes on to be Finn, but like, you never thought you'd see that in a stormtrooper. And then, of course, like, his pal dies and he's got, like, the blood mark on his mask and stuff. So effective, a way of picking someone out of a crowd. And then later on, that effect where, like, the camera's right in front of all the blasters, right down the, you know, the bullet hole, and all the blasters are going off, and you can see Finn's isn't going off, you know. He's not shooting, you know, he's not going to do it. He can't bring himself to do it. And then there's a moment where Kylo spots him. Kylo clocks him and says, "Why are you not taking part here? You're supposed to be one of my, you know, you're supposed to be one of my people." And then obviously the penny drops later on when he goes F1812 FN818 FN2187. Sorry. Well, since I've seen it. But yeah, it's such a beautiful, such a iconic and kind of gripping moment where they kind of lock eyes, and you kind of know something's going to happen in the future, but obviously nothing's happened yet, you know. So very exciting. I love that scene. Poe getting away, but you don't know he got away, you know. Well, I guess, okay, the moment that comes before that when Poe and Finn are together and they meet, and, you know, he goes, "What's your name?" FN2187. He's like, "F what?" And he gives him the name Finn. It's brilliant. And it's kind of like the moment in Rise of Skywalker where Poe asks Finn to be a general, and he goes, "Thank you, General." Like, those wee moments between those two guys that they're just pals now, you know what I mean? It's such a beautiful, and that's where it starts, right at the start of Force Awakens. And then you go from a really feel-good moment, I guess, when they two become pals. Not a feel-good moment, so many people die, villagers die, but such a friendly moment between, you know, two pals. Then you go to later on in The Force Awakens where Ben Solo finally is reunited with his father. And, you know, I was watching Rise of Skywalker on May the 4th, and the moment that's so underrated in Rise of Skywalker where Rey finally connects with Kylo again, and it's like the flashback to all the kind of the previous few films. It seems there's all these quick cuts and that sort of thing, and you hear Han shout "Ben," and I remember hearing that for the first time, and, you know, we didn't know his name was Ben. We kind of could figure it out maybe if we looked into it long enough, but I love when how to explain this. I love when you see the inner workings of certain things, and you see that, you know, these people are real people. So Han calls his son by his first name. His first name's not Kylo, you know what I mean? It's this cool name that he's come up with. What? No, but the mask? Very good, sir. Things like that, you know, they're actual real people, you know, they're not just these personalities and these aliennesses that they choose to go by. People like Luke Skywalker, for example, that's his real name. But Princess Leia, first name is not Princess, don't be daft. But yeah, so the fact that it humanises Kylo there and he takes off the mask, And just that whole scene, the changing of the light, you know something bad's going to happen. The stabbing of the lightsaber, and he goes, "Thank you." And it just goes full circle later on in Rise of Skywalker when he quotes it again. "I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I've got the strength to do it." And he goes, "Dad." And Han goes, "I know." Brilliant. Just makes you cry. Gives me chills. I got goosebumps watching Rise of Skywalker when that happened, and I got goosebumps thinking back to the moment he shouts Ben, just by shouting the word Ben. You know, and the noise that Rey makes and the noise that Chewbacca makes. It's just such an iconic and unbelievable moment that you just don't see coming, and you see it coming during that scene, you know, especially when the light goes, you go, "Oh no, something bad's going to happen here." But before it, you know, you sense it might be coming, but you just hope it doesn't happen, and it's even more unbelievable. It's a bit like Rise of Skywalker when we think that Chewie's dead, you know, and the fact that they blew up Chewie, and the moment where Rey screams Chewie, you know, she screams Chewie's name, and all the sound goes away, and all you hear is this isolated scream of absolute just, what's the word? Dread? Distraught, is that the word? The fact that she's potentially killed Chewie is just unbelievable. It just gives you chills. So that's another favourite moment, the Han and Kylo interaction, the Ben moment in Force Awakens. I think it's unbelievable, and I can watch it every day of the week, twice on Sunday. It's brilliant. And the fifth and final moment in this top 5, that isn't an official top 5, is from the film that I said I watched today, from Revenge of the Sith. Definitely the best film of the prequel trilogy, and I think one of the best films of the entire saga, just because of the way it kind of ties everything up. And yes, there's silly parts of it, of course there is. The dialogue in this film is pretty ridiculous, but there's something about it that kind of makes the dialogue go to the back of your head. Like today I remember watching it, I was sitting on this chair watching the TV there, and I was just like, I wasn't even listening to the dialogue. Even I knew what they were saying because I'd seen the film so many times, but I was just thinking about the emotion of this film, especially the last half hour of this film, 45 minutes. It's just absolutely mental, and that's why the moment I want to talk about is the Anakin versus Obi One battle, where, you know, after he kills Viceroy and Gunray, and Obi Wan comes with Padme and 3PO and R2, and they have that scene where they're shouting at each other with the infamous dialogue. But although the dialogue is mocked a lot of times, it's actually some of my favourite dialogue. It's actually one of my favourite movie scenes of all time. In terms of the amount of times I've quoted that with friends and, you know, just in other Star Wars fans, you know, just quoting that moment. Things like, "You have done that yourself," and things like that. It's just, I don't know. He watched it today as well. I wasn't even quoting it. In fact, I did quote it once or twice in the copy of the lines, but just still getting into it and still feeling the emotion of it and stuff. I remember seeing that in the cinema in 2005 and thinking all I wanted to see when I was younger was the lightsaber battles. And knowing I was about to see the two best at the lightsaber battles have a lightsaber battle, I was so excited. And I love, this is almost like, you know, in wrestling when tag team partners fight or old rivals fight, they know each other's every move. They know what's coming, they know what to expect, they know how to counter, they know what they need to do, and how fast they're. I mean, it's not quite as fast as the end of Phantom Menace, but it's. I'd almost argue it's better because it's almost like they've worked on this one-on-one, you know. And I just think it's unbelievable. Not only is that scene before they start fighting iconic, but the fight itself, not to be confused with the fact that it's sort of transitions between the Emperor and Yoda having that mental fight and duel with the lightsabers where Yoda's doing all the flips. And I remember thinking that was really cool when I was younger, that Yoda could hold his own and he was so powerful even though he was so small. I almost don't like it now though, watching it back, because I like to stay focused on the Obi-Wan and Anakin story. It's just seeing Anakin turn from being, when I was younger, I didn't think about acting, I didn't think about the delivery of lines, I didn't think about dialogue. When I was younger, Anakin was cool, I wanted to be like Anakin. He was my favourite character. And then seeing him just go into this descent is just traumatising to a young guy. And now watching it, it's almost like you see what you're doing there, you see how it's working, and okay, I like that, you know. It's I think Hayden Christensen gets a really, really hard time for no reason. Could he be better? Of course he could, but every actor could be better in every film, in one way, shape or form. And I bet you any actor will tell you that, you know, speaking from somewhat experience. But just the way that I think he gets absolutely murdered in terms of his write-up and his reviews and his reputation because of this film, and it's a bloody shame because it's not bad in the slightest. You know, and I guess I will blame some of it on the dialogue, but just the fact that the emotion in his face and that moment where he's screaming at Obi-Wan that I hate you, and Obi-Wan, not to be confused with Ewan McGregor being probably my favourite Star Wars character, period. You know, a close second would be a tie between Rey and Kylo. But Obi-Wan's just screaming, "You were the chosen one, or you were my brother, Anakin." Just, it still makes me get emotional, and it still makes me kind of get chills and get really into it. And I don't know, I got a really deep love for that film, and especially that scene, and those two characters, Anakin and Obi-Wan, being pals and being partners, and then coming to this, you know, he's got no choice. I will do as I must. He's got no choice. He has to fight Anakin. He has to fight his brother, you know. And it's a horrific ending, but just an amazing ending. And that is the creation of Darth Vader. But that scene right before that, you know, Anakin versus Obi-Wan in the fiery lava planet, and the scene where Anakin is so blinded by his new power and blinded by the Emperor and brainwashed. You know, it's nice to see that moment in Return of the Jedi where he finally snaps out of it and comes to and wants to see his son with his own eyes. But it just takes so long because he's so brainwashed, you know. And even at this point, I love when, you know, what I was talking about earlier on about Han Solo calling Kylo Ben, calling him by his real name. You know, after, you know, there's still about 45 minutes left to go in Revenge of the Sith, and the Emperor has already, you know, said, "You will be known as Darth Vader." And now he's going to be, Anakin's now Darth Vader. He's not Anakin anymore, but Obi-Wan still calls him Anakin, you know, because he's his pal, he's his brother, he loves him. Doesn't know him as Darth Vader. However, in A New Hope, you know, of course, this is well before this was even thought about. You know, Ben Kenobi calls Darth Vader Darth, which I actually think is quite funny, as if Darth's his first name. But yeah, man, it's brilliant. It's that scene's really special to me, and watching it today kind of solidified that for me, and made me realise that these are some of my favourite moments in Star Wars history. I could go on about so many other scenes. Rise of Skywalker has some really special scenes, like the moment where we think that Chewie's gone. That end scene of Rise of Skywalker is a really special scene in cinema, where Rey goes to Tatooine and, you know, and she buries the lightsabers, and she looks over to the moon, and BB-8's there, and the holograms or the shadows of Leia and Luke are there, and she officially says, "I'm Rey Skywalker." That's a special scene. That, along with the whole scene with the Emperor, you know, where, you know, the Reylo moment is really special. But to me, the best moment in Rise of Skywalker is where she hears the voices of the Jedi in her head. She hears Ewan McGregor, she hears Hayden Christensen, she hears Ahsoka, she hears Yoda, she hears Mace Windu. It's this special moment of all the films coming together at the ending of the last film. It's beautiful. I nearly put that one in, but I went with the Battle of Crate because I love The Last Jedi, and I thought The Rise of Skywalker is a bit too fresh in my mind to get that. I've seen Rise of Skywalker 4 times now, 3 times in the cinema, once on Blu-ray or on Disney+. Last Jedi, I'm going to say 7 viewings, 7 or 6 viewings. Force Awakens, don't even ask me, 15 maybe. But the rest of them I don't know. I've not seen Return of the Jedi that much. Empire, New Hope, Revenge of the Sith, dozens of times, you know. And even Phantom Menace I've seen a lot as well, because it's like Phantom Menace, you start that on a Star Wars marathon and you never get all the way through it. So yeah, that's some Star Wars chat. I just kind of wanted, I'm in the mood to talk about Star Wars, get that off my chest. Thank you for tuning in this whole time if you have. Really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments your favourite Star Wars moments, or you can let me know on Twitter at CM42TV. Tweet me, tell me which moments of Star Wars are your favourite, what are your favourite Star Wars films, and please like, subscribe and share here on CM42TV, and I'll be back very, very shortly with some more, you know, evidently more Star Wars chat here on CM42TV in the near future. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you all next time.